show notes. Talking about tech and games and stuff. Hey, should I read The Wheel of Time?
I don't know. I've never read it.
Okay. So I Amazon is working on a Wheel of Time series, and it's not out yet. It's supposed to come out sometime this year, and they've already renewed it for a second season. Now today, they also announced that there's going to be a prequel film trilogy that's going to go with the show.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm working through the Stormlight archives right now, and I'm really liking it. But it takes me a long ass time to get through a book because
Right.
I tend to read multiple books. Like I play multiple video games at the same time. I might read multiple comics. So I might not even read a chapter a day. It just kind of depends on whatever I'm in the middle of doing or whatever tickles my fancy for the day. Even though I'm still
Right.
really enjoying it, and I think Brandon Sanderson is, I really like his books, and I think he's built like a really cool world with a really unique like magic system and characters, and it's just I'm really liking it. But he finished The Wheel of Time. So Robert
Yes.
Jordan wrote the first 11 books, and then he ended up passing away. He gave all of his notes to Brandon Sanderson, like a la George R. R. Martin with the Game of Thrones to J.B. Benioff or whatever their names are. I don't even remember. But
Yep.
I'm looking for like something else. So once I'm done with the Stormlight archives, which I've only got one more book to read, I'm going to want to dig into something deep. Now I know you're like a Sword of Truth fan.
Yes, you should read Sword of Truth.
I want you to convince me to read Sword of Truth over The Wheel of Time. I'm putting you on the spot.
Okay.
You're going to be setting up possibly the next 2 years of my life.
Yep.
So do your thing.
Okay. Boy. The main character of Sword of Truth, his name is Richard. There.
Okay, I'm in.
I'm done. My name's Rich, by the way.
How many books is it?
Oh man, way too many. The first it's about like any like really long series. Like the first six six or seven books are pretty good. There's some not so great ones in there, but he just keeps writing those books. Terry Goodkind. He kind of ended it. I don't know how many books in, probably 12. And then he
Oh,
kind of restarted it and then ended that and then restarted it again and then he just keeps doing more and more like trilogies and just keeps writing books. But that first book is really really good. The Wizard's First Rule.
okay.
Um, it's really good. You should read that for sure.
Okay. So you turned me on to Brandon Sanderson with Firstborn.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm looking to get into something else, and I will say I don't know anybody else that has read The Sword of Truth. I have a buddy that I used to work with that has read The Wheel of Time, and he said when he was done with it, he felt like he was like walking away from his like best friends because he's made such a connection with them, and I think he listened to all of them, so it was just like this huge epic 14. I mean, they're like 1,000 pages long, so I mean
Oh yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's dense. Is that how the
Yeah.
Sword of Truth is too?
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's a big, long, sprawling story with the same, seven core characters.
Okay.
Really, like four core characters. Um, and it does what all those books do. It puts them in peril,
Sure.
puts them in tough situations. Um, it is a little Game of Thronesy, where like nobody wins sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
but not always. But tough decisions are made in those books, and I like that. I like
Mm-hmm.
I like it when books do that. So
I,
But that first book is a really good book. It's a page turner. It kind of introduces you to this world. The way the magic system works, I think, is really interesting. And there's a couple of really good key characters in there that I really like.
hmm. Yeah, I've never read Game of Thrones. And I've never sunk into a series as deep as like the Stormlight Archives. I tried Mistborn, which is
Mm-hmm.
Brandon Sanderson's like other, and I kind of fell off of it. I hear it gets better, so I might revisit that at some point. But I think it's Amazon like doing all these announcements with the Wheel of Time that's making me like want to read that book. But I will give the Sword of Truth, the first one, a shot and see what it's like. But
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah.
It's very outdoorsy.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so like a lot of time like traveling from like one place to another, kind of like Game of Thrones can be for sure.
Hmm. Interesting. Okay. The Sword of Truth. Okay.
The Seeker of Truth.
No idea what that is. Hey, Rich.
Hey, Michael.
And hello, everybody. This is BitPunch Radio episode 025. Rich, we made it.
We made it.
We used to run a website and we used to do a podcast, and that podcast made it 25 episodes before we hung up our hat on that.
Yeah.
BitPunch used to be a podcast. We hung up our hat, like, I think around episode 18, maybe. You'd have to look at your time machine for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're gonna hurdle. We're gonna keep moving, and I'm excited. And I think we have a lot of fun stuff to talk about today. So, what have you been up to?
Well, to go along with the cold open, I decided I wanted to reread Firstborn by
Oh,
Brandon Sanderson.
okay.
That the short story. I think it might be the first thing he ever had published.
Oh,
Um,
well,
or
damn, what a great
or
start.
one of them. Yeah, man, it's a great little book.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just something about that book um, that is kind of so perfect. Like it's this short little thing, and he just has this way of packing so much information in such a small little package. It's kind of amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to reread it. I had not reread it since I initially read it. I think Goodreads popped up. It was like 2012 or something ridiculous. Um, but I wanted to reread it to kind of experience it again. It's such a good little story. Um, I wish he would flesh that like universe out more because it's such a cool universe that he was kind of starting to lay the groundwork for. And man, yeah,
Does it
I
tie
just love that
into
book.
like the Cosmere at all, which is
I
like
have
his
no,
overarching
I don't
theme
know.
of? Okay.
I guess I should say that I don't know.
Okay.
It maybe it does in some way.
Have you ever been to his website?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy has his life mapped out. I think until he's 73 or 75, one.
Yeah.
But he does these amazing blog posts at the end of every year that's just like, here's a recap of my year. Here's everything I've published. Here's all the comics I'm working on. I've got freaking board games that are coming out now. I've got tabletop stuff. There was rumors that a character from Mistborn was going to be in Fortnite, which that blew my mind. Like, he's
Yep.
really getting out there, and he has this tab on his website where you can go and see what he's currently working on. So it'll show like, okay, he just published volume 4 of the Stormline Archive. So you'll see when he's in pre-production of Volume 5, or you'll see that he's working on the not Starlight. What he's got like a science fiction like space opera now, which is like a preteen style book. But you'll see like, okay, he's planning on publishing that in June of 2022 or something, and it's just really cool. I wish like more authors would do that, because there are like a good handful of authors that I like, and that I'll tend to read, like Scalzi or Brandon Sanderson. And I wish that they would do more things like that. Scalzi's very vocal on Goodreads, but I don't know if he's got anything where he's just got like this whole thing mapped out. But Brandon Sanderson has like, the Cosmere is his whole overarching theme of all of his books. And it like, in a way, it all ties back together to this universe that he's creating. So essentially, Stormlight Archive is in the Mistborn universe. I don't have no idea how those tie into each other, but I just know that that's kind of how his where his vision is and where it's going, and is like mapped out for the next like 30 years of this man's life or something. It's incredible. I know we've talked about this in the past, like working on something for so long, but that guy has like, okay, here's the rest of my life. Like, I'm going to work on this. I'm going to shat this out, and then I'm done. I'll be good. It's just, It's incredible.
Yeah. Have you ever watched his YouTube channel?
No.
Man, he does these long seminars.
Sorry
about,
if you can hear there's somebody hammering below me. I don't know if you can hear that. I see it's picking up, so apologies, but go ahead.
Yeah. But Brandon Sanderson has a YouTube channel where he goes into these like long like lectures about writing, and like his process, and like world building, and like character building, and it's bananas. Like,
wow.
Just the thought that has to go into all that, and how much work all that it is pretty astonishing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love his work. I think it tends more towards like teenagers, I would say, because like the Stormlight Archives, like George R.R. Martin, he's known for like he's known for like dicks and being very descriptive about sex and stuff, where Brandon Sanderson is more like, we're having these feelings, there could be sex, but I'm not going to write about it. Like, he does not get into he gets into relationships, but he's not very I'll use the word vulgar with it. He's not
right.
He doesn't go into descriptions like George R.R. Martin. He's really more focused on character building and the world itself. But he's an incredible writer.
Yeah. I've never read any of his other books. I think I tried to read Mistborn and I don't think I gave it a good enough go. But that's kind of on my list of shame.
Yeah. I do want to try to revisit it. I thought the idea was cool. It like their magic system is based on these coins or something, so they're able to like basically do a double jump if they throw this coin out, and then they can use it as like a little launch pad or something. I don't know. I only got about 20 something % into that book, but there's just so many out there that I want to read. And now I've kind of just adapted this. If it doesn't catch me, I'm moving on, because there's so much stuff out there that I'm sure I can find something else. But
oh yeah.
Oh, what else? What else you been up to?
Michael.
Yes.
Have you ever watched the Tour de France?
I watched the Tour de Farce, which is an Andy Samberg movie. Have you seen that?
No.
If you want to see John Cena doping on a bicycle with a naked man on his shoulders, you need to watch that movie. I believe it's on Netflix, and it's 45 minutes long. So the next time you get on your bike and you're looking for something to watch, put a pause on the Clone Wars and watch Tour de Farce.
Okay.
It's ridiculous. So I know like you're a big cycler.
Yeah. I like to ride bikes. I like to ride road bikes, gravel bikes. I don't know. I like endurance exercise, I guess. It's
Hmm.
fun. It's fun. You get to
Sure.
go ride around and have fun. Um, and I've always liked racing. I grew up like around cars and things like that. So the racing part of this sort of appeals to me. But the Tour de France is kind of nuts. It's this 3 week long, I think 21 stage race where they start in a certain point, the route changes every year, and they eventually like the last stage ends in Paris,
Hmm.
and it it takes place like mostly like the big stages take place in like the mountains, like the Alps or the Pyrenees, and they do these crazy climbs um, on bikes. And when I say climb, I mean like they're riding like up a mountain, like
Mm.
on a road, like these crazy like 51-minute long like brutal climbs. And it's just the way that NBC Sports, who does the like American coverage, the way they cover it, I think is pretty good. Um, I don't know. It's really fun to watch. It's kind of hard to understand like what's going on because it's a stage race. Like they have the yellow jersey. Like if you remember from like the Lance Armstrong days, he always had the yellow.
Hmm.
The person who's leading the overall time is in yellow. And then there's also a polka dot jersey for the best climber, a green jersey for the best sprinter, and a white jersey for like best young rider. And so there's all these like little competitions going on, and it's kind of hilarious, like because there's all these cars following them. Like each team has their cars with like all the bikes on top, and like one of them will like snap a chain, and they like some guy gets out, like takes a bike off the top, like in 20 seconds, like in no time at all. Like
It's like their
they'll
own
like,
mobile pit crew.
oh dude, it's bananas. Like there'll be like some guy will have a problem with like a shifter, and some dude is like hanging out a car window like with a wrench while the guy's still riding the bike and like trying to fix it so they don't have to stop, right? But they'll do like these bike changes where like the rider's bike just breaks a chain or something. He'll like hop off, and like in 2 seconds some poor guy's out there trying to get the dude on the bike, and then he gives him like this push, and you're like allowed to push him for so long to get him back going, and it's kind of bananas. But you should look at the first couple stages of this year's
what
tour.
what is this, what do you mean by a stage? Is it just like a section of the race?
Yeah, so the Tour de France is 21 stages. They typically do one stage per day. And there's a couple rest days in there. So one stage will be like 120 miles or all the
Oh,
way up to like 200 miles. Um, and it's in kilometers, obviously, because it's Europe. But they're long, like 4 6 hour rides for pros. Like someone like me would take me all day, literally,
sure.
to do something like that. Um, but in the first stage this year, they had all these huge crashes. Like a dude at the front of the peloton, which is the big group, and there's like 160 riders. This person was holding a big sign up
So
because there's all these.
that's the thing that happened this year.
Yeah, that happened this year.
Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah, that was
gosh.
all over social media.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and you just see the the guy that was right in front of the peloton hit this sign that this fan was holding. He goes down. He just completely bites it. Like a 3-year-old on a tricycle,
Sure.
just just face straight into the pavement, and then like 80 people just run into him. Like it's
Oh
like a
my
video game.
gosh.
But yeah, the first week of this year's tour was like a lot of carnage. But now you have like there's like all with it being like a European sport and even American sports, there's like all these like unwritten rules of like things you're supposed to do and not supposed to do.
Hmm.
So like when you're riding in a group, um, or not like a big group, like if you're trying to get away from the peloton and you're all riding in a straight line because you're faster that way. You have one guy at the front doing all the work, and then all the guys behind him aren't having to pedal so hard, you know. And so the guy in the front, he'll work for like a minute, drop to the then pull off, and the next guy pulls up, and you kind of get this train going. Like every minute, the guy cycles off the front, and we're getting into like the last week, and they'll do this up the mountains too. They'll take turns pulling, and the the yellow jersey, he was trying to, or somebody was trying to drop him, like get away from him, and the move for when you want somebody to pull through is to like give him a little elbow flick. Well, this dude was giving him the elbow flick, and he wasn't pulling through. And it's like, okay, well, I mean, he is in yellow, so he can kind of do whatever he wants. But it's like a real dick move, because now he's left this guy out there, and he's just dying going up this freaking, 2-mile tall mountain. It's bananas. It's hard to keep track of if you don't know all the rules, but it's kind of fun to watch because they're just.
Is it like
they're just destroying each other?
Is it raw? Is it like there's 6 hours of coverage of this thing?
Oh no,
Okay.
I typically watch like the abbreviated versions. They upload those to YouTube. Sometimes I'll watch like the raw feed. But
I bet that's a job to try to figure out
dude.
like
They
what
have
is.
they have dudes on motorcycles with cameras, and that's how they get the shots. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And these guys are going like 60 miles an hour down mountains,
That's
on
scary.
wet roads. And yeah,
I live in
it's
a hilly neighborhood, and it scares the shit out of me anytime I'm on a bicycle, or my daughter or a son or whatever, just going down a little hill. I'm just like, nope.
Yeah, I think I've hit 40 or 45, like going down on a pretty good hill, and that was like, yeah, I'm dragging the brake. It's really fast. Yeah. Let's see here. Loki. Do you want to talk about Loki now?
Sure.
Okay. What do you think about it? I haven't watched. We record this on Wednesdays. I haven't watched the one that came out today.
I did. I watched it. I finished it.
Oh, you watched it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not going to say anything. So,
okay.
Because I think it is too soon. But,
okay.
I am liking this show. It's fine. I will say, I know I said I wouldn't go into it. The last episode, no spoilers, it drags. It drags, man.
I felt like the one before that drug, where he was in the land of other Lokis.
Right. Yeah, like Athos or whatever, the big dragon, the smog monster dragon thing.
You just called the dragon the bad guy from Axiom Verge.
Okay. So it's not Athos, but it's something like that.
No,
what is the dragon's name?
I don't remember.
Oh, well, whatever. It's something like that.
Lion.
Eliath. Yeah. Athos. That's funny.
Come on, Trace.
I know. I couldn't think of his name either. But anyway, yeah, I thought that episode was a little weak, but I don't know. It's fine. I think I just had high hopes for all of this stuff, and I think Winter Soldier kind of was just like whatever. I still think WandaVision was my favorite just because of how unique it was, and it was just something different. So, I mean, I guess it's better to get this as a show, trying to explain the concept of the timelines and the multiverse and how all that stuff just like spiders out of control if you let it. That would be hard to explain in a movie because you really only have so long. So, I mean, hell, they had to split up Infinity War and Endgame, and that was almost 6 hours of screen time. So it's really just setting up, kind of giving you an idea of what to expect with the multiverse. And that's kind of what the show's about with the TVA and all that. Loki's a cool character. Sylvie's a cool character. I just think that I don't know. I just think that I wish they were able to dive a little more into the lore of things, where I felt like Loki episode 5 and especially episode 6, I feel like it kind of drug its feet a lot. But I think it's fine. I'm still excited. I don't know about the What If series, if I'm really excited about that, because I don't think I'm not. It's
Yeah.
not that it's a cartoon, because I'm watching a cartoon right now. I have no qualms with that. I just don't think that it falls into the whole timeline of everything. Like, it's a spin-offs. It's based off of a comic of like, what if Star-Lord was Iron Man, or what if Black Panther ran the Avengers. It's like these one-off stories.
Right.
But and maybe it does. Maybe it does kind of explain, like, here's how the multiverse could work, because it is all these different variants of timelines that could happen. But I just don't know how much the events of this show is going to pay off in the overarching theme of everything. But
Right.
they do.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like the concept of like the multiple Lokis. To me, that's a weird thing. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if I fully grasp either. Like, are they all versions of him, or are they just all versions of just a Loki?
Well,
Like,
what is a
the
Loki?
Loki? I don't know. Like, I don't
Right.
know enough about it. Like,
Yeah.
and that's what's confusing to me. Like, is he the OG? Is like, I don't know. It's weird to me.
I think, to me, Marvel, with their first like phases, they were able to tap into the well-known characters. They would throw in
Yeah.
an Ant-Man or something, but for the most part, you know these characters. You know who Iron Man is. You don't know who the Guardians are. I didn't know who the Guardians were before I watched that movie. I was really there for Chris Pratt, but now they're getting into like the hardcoreness of things, where they're introducing the multiverse and they're bringing in, these sub characters. Like Hawkeye's daughter is getting her own TV show. She-Hulk is going to be a part of it. And apparently that's supposed to be a comedy. Like Mark Ruffalo, and I don't know who they've cast as She-Hulk, but it's supposed to be a comedy show. Which is strange, which
Yeah.
I'm into that though. I want them to get weird. They can only shell out so many, here's a bad guy, let's go fight the bad guy. Like, they have to start getting weird with it to keep people's interest. It's just now they're digging deep in the well of these characters, because who's Squirrel Girl? Who's Miss Marvel? I know she was on the Avengers game, but
Yeah.
I don't know anything about Miss Marvel until I started reading about her in the comic. So
Right. I always thought Loki was a cool character, and I felt like he was kind of a feared character. Like, he was cool, but in this whole show, they just kind of neutered him. Like, he hasn't done anything cool the entire series. Like,
no, they're like giving him a heart. It's like they're trying to make him, even though he like caused all kinds of chaos and in these different movies and stuff. I think they're trying to retcon him in a way, but
Right.
I don't know. I'm curious what your thoughts are on the last episode. It's interesting.
Yeah. I'll probably watch it tonight. Get caught up.
Unfortunately, TikTok spoiled it for me. So I knew better. I knew better than to look, but it was just like the guy was seriously like, he was not facing the camera, and then all of a sudden he was just like, Loki spoilers in 3, 2, 1, boom, and then there it was. And I was just like, I couldn't swipe fast enough. I was like, no, I don't want to know. And then the whole shebang was out there. So,
Man,
oh well.
rough.
So out of the 3, which one would you say is your favorite so far? I know you haven't wrapped up Loki, but if you had to base it on 5 episodes.
Oh man, I don't know. They're all pretty flat to me.
Yeah.
There's not one that really sticks out. Like I said, I just feel like they just neutered him in a weird way. Like, he just hasn't done anything cool. He's just kind of being made fun of all the time. Like, you're nothing. Like, you're not an Avenger. You're not this or that.
Right.
You're not a real bad guy. You're just a screw up. And I don't know. Like, Sylvie's the cool one, I guess. But yeah. And like the whole thing that he's like kind of falling in love with himself, which is kind of hilarious.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
that's the only thing about like the multiple Lokis that they kind of brought home. But
You think that's going to be a new category on Pornhub?
yeah, yeah, for sure, Lokis.
No, I was thinking of falling in love with yourself.
Well, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. They'll just use machine learning AI to use your selfie camera, and there you go.
So speaking of Pornhub, they release stats on a regular basis of
No, oh
like their
no.
top search things by state, and they'll draw out this map of the United States and show like what is your most searched thing based on your
I
state.
don't even want to know.
I'm
I
not going to
don't.
get into the specifics because I'll let you venture that yourself. But the stat that they released today is the the top misspelled searches of each state. And it was a beautiful chart of the United States, all 50 states, and what ranks the highest as misspelled things that these people are searching for. I don't know. I just think that's so great. Like, they have a team of DBAs, of database administrators, that have to put this stuff together. And I just want to imagine this CEO, he's just like, I have this idea. Let's show this let's show all these search results, because I just think it'll be funny. I imagine somebody there is just like, this is hilarious. We have to publish this because we're going to get so much press for it.
Yeah, yeah.
It was
That's
great.
pretty genius.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
genius.
Yeah.
And also terrifying at the same time.
That data's out there. You visit, they're tracking you, of course. What else you been up to?
Ah, man, that's really it. Work's been absolutely insane.
You're not playing any
Um,
games? How's Outer Worlds?
It's still a work in progress,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Yeah, 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 for sure. The
Have you
government
met
needs us.
Okay, so I watched you've got two out there?
Yeah,
Pretty
too.
sure I've watched them both. You've
Yeah,
met Parvati
yeah.
and you've met the crazy man. I guess you kind of meet him at the beginning, like the old man.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That game goes places. I think you'll really dig it. Just stick with it cuz it's
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. I definitely am. There's a lost third episode that I need to re-record.
Yeah.
Because of recording's hard. So
Man, sometimes you think you hit that button and it's just not doing
yeah,
anything. So
yeah.
today,
Sometimes
this morning I was recording some Yakuza footage and it recorded the whole thing and it looked great. Pulled it into DaVinci Resolve and there's no audio because I clicked off the window, so it just was not registering it as audio anymore. No idea why.
crazy,
I know.
weird.
So I lost like an hour and 10 minutes of footage, but I'll play through it again. I'm digging it.
Yep.
Well, anything else?
Nope.
All right, Rich. I started Castlevania.
Okay.
I have been walking on my treadmill, and so this is my I'm gonna walk and watch something.
Yep.
So what I'm doing is I'm watching an episode of something because it's like 20 something minutes, and then I'm reading an issue of a comic because I've wanted to get back into comics and I've struggled with like what I want to read. Castlevania is really great. It might be one of the greatest video game adaptations to film or TV of all time. I think they've set up like a really cool story. That first season is only 4 episodes, and it's really like 80 to 90 minutes of footage. But it really sets up it's setting up like where that show is going, cuz like at the time it's just like, well, I see Dracula and there is Trevor, one of the Belmonts, and you know he's like doing his little thing or whatever, but there's like this main thing that happens, and it kind of over the course of 4 episodes they're kind of setting up like, okay, well, this is where we're going with the second season. So I think the first season was probably more in lines of like a proof of concept, where it's like we've got this great writer. It's I think his name is Warren Ellis, which he's a comic book writer, and he's done a really good job writing Castlevania. Like, it's funny, like you will laugh watching this. There's some really good Trevor quotes in there, and just some of the stuff that happens. It's just silly but funny and good, and I can already see that they got more of a budget in the second season, and I think they doubled the episodes. So I think the second season's 8, and then I think the last 2 seasons are 10 episodes apiece.
Okay.
So
yeah. On that note, I guess they had a WitcherCon like last week. I don't know if you saw this. CD Projekt and Netflix had this WitcherCon, like this event all around The Witcher. They released like the first real trailer for season 2.
I have not watched that yet.
The Netflix show. But they also released the first trailer for the anime that they're making.
Okay.
I can't remember what it's called, but it comes out in August. So
Oh, that's fast.
For that.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped for that.
Does it tie into anything, or is it just like its own unique spin-off?
It looks like it's going to be based around Vesemir, who is Geralt's sort of mentor.
Mentor, yeah.
Yeah, like a young Vesemir. So.
Oh. Huh.
Yeah. Anime.
Yeah, it turns out it's okay. It's not bad. I'm not watching Demon Slayer anymore, but I might pick back up on that. But so yeah, I'm liking Castlevania. We've talked about Loki. We did watch Black Widow. Black Widow was okay. I think it was fun. I think it was solid. It does not push any bars or boundaries or anything. It's just like another good one of those. But yeah, I quite enjoyed it. I think so. Okay, so spoilers. No, I don't want to spoil anything because it's way too soon. But it's a good movie, and obviously, like, if you want to try to keep up with everything, you're gonna have to watch it. It has an end credit scene where it's like it sets up some stuff. And this movie was supposed to come out before Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and it actually sets up something that happens in that show. So it's almost like you need to watch Black Widow, and then, unfortunately, if you did or didn't like it, you might want to revisit or like reread some of the stuff that happened in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because they introduced a character in that show, and I think they expected you to already know who this person is. Right. But you didn't, because you didn't know about the events of Black Widow. So, excuse me. Okay. What else have I been up to? Oh, Rich. So, the Clone Wars. Yeah. Austin Walker of Waypoint and Giant Bomb fame does a podcast about Clone Wars. I have downloaded this. I want to start listening to it, and I want to pick back up on this show. Let me look up his podcast. Let's give him a little plug here. It is called A More Civilized Age, a Clone Wars podcast. And it looks like Giant Bomb used to do, they had their DBZ podcast where they would watch like 3 to 5 episodes of Dragon Ball Z, and then they would talk about them in a podcast. Right. So there's 4 different people. I don't know these people besides Austin Walker, but it looks like they pick up 3 episodes and they just talk about it. Oh my gosh, they talk about it for almost 3 hours an episode. Whoa. That's a lot of Clone Wars. We'll see if I listen to that. I did not read that at first.
There's some really good, like, 3 episode long, like, story arcs in Clone Wars. I mean, 3 hours is a long time, but there's a lot of content there. So.
Yeah, that's true. And I'm sure they probably know. I don't know the lore enough, but I'm sure that they know the lore enough where they could say, like, this sequence of events, like, takes place in this comic series or something like that. Right. I just don't have that knowledge. So, I think once I finish Castlevania, that might transition to I'm going to try and watch something,
Mm.
and read a comic. So I love talking about Hoopla. I love like plugging Hoopla, and they do a comic of the month, but instead of just like one, it won't be of the month, it'll be like of the season. So they'll be like, hey, here's a selection of comics that we recommend you should read over the summer. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
great. I was looking for something like that. I was kind of lost where I wanted to go. I thought I wanted to read Mass Effect, but I don't think that's the direction I want to go. So I started reading Sweet Tooth. So Sweet Tooth is about a boy with deer antlers. He's like a hybrid. And I guess in this world, people hunt hybrids. So Robert Downey Jr. and his wife has a production company, and they have translated this to a show on Netflix. I have not watched it yet. I don't know if I'm going to go further. I did finish the first volume.
Uh-huh.
It's one of those books that seems like it's going to be so fucking depressing.
Oh boy.
And I don't know if I want to stay around for that. Like I I don't need a bunch of depressing stuff in my life. So I don't
Yeah.
know if I'm going to continue to read this, but my gosh, like those first 5 issues, they are very powerful. So if you're into that, you might like it. But
Hmm.
I don't know. Like I might watch the show and see where that goes, because I've seen like bits and pieces of a trailer and it shows him as like a little baby. That is not the comic, so I don't know if they're just kind of borrowing the idea of Sweet Tooth and then kind of telling their own story or not. But
Mhm.
it was pretty unique.
Huh.
Um, so there's a Loki comic on there that I want to read. There's all kinds of stuff. So I might start picking through those and then I'll talk about them. Maybe I'll write some stuff up in our newsletter or something about it. Also finished this book called The Midnight Library. I'll just go into the very basics of this. Basically, okay, it's a lot of depressing. And another depressing thing I'm reading. I don't know why. It just was recommended to me. Um, this lady commits suicide,
Yeah.
and instead of dying, she goes to this library of all the things that your life could be. And she's able to read these books and then enter that world of like, what if I got my master's degree? Or what if I didn't leave this job? Or what if I stuck with this man? Or you know what I mean? Like, there's like an infinite amount of possibilities. And that was a really good book. It was short, it's like 300 pages. But I've been recommending it to people if they like just like shorter style books that are kind of unique. I thought it was a different concept. I haven't read anything like that before, but yeah, I recommend that. That's all I've been reading. That's all I've been watching. Gaming wise, we are playing Axiom Verge.
Yeah.
Uh, I am hot and cold on that game. I was super excited to start it. And I think as I've been playing it, I'm still liking it, but I'm liking it a little less and less. It's not difficult. It's not the difficulty of it because it is a challenging game. But it's really like once you get the idea of the bosses, then you can kind of just not cheat your way through it, but you know, you can kind of just like get your way through it. It's really not a big deal. I think I was just expecting something more unique than what we are playing through.
I mean, it's definitely unique. Like the art style, the music, the setting, like all that is very weird and
Sure.
unique. But the gameplay seems to be very repetitive.
Yes.
Like n- none of the enemies really do anything special.
No. They're like
The
a Goomba.
bosses, yeah, the bosses are very, very similar. Um, that's kind of my biggest shock with that game so far.
I think it's telling like a cool story.
Yeah.
And in this last episode that we just published, I think on Tuesday, it, I mean, it's setting up like I don't know. It's going places. Like I don't really know where it's going, but it is. You know, I think it's one of those like you think you know what's going to happen, but you really don't. Which I'm stealing that from a review, but um, I think it's the whole having to scan the different things, and it just the look of that. I'm just not the biggest fan of. Like you said, the enemies are kind of generic.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, we're gonna finish it, and I hope it keeps introducing cool things. Like I have this little robot now that we can play with, but it's really only used to like solve a pretty generic puzzle. It's just like just go
Yeah.
down this path, and then open this door for Trace to go through, and that's it. I wish that they would use more unique ways to kind of play around with that stuff, but
Yeah.
um, I don't know. I think it's fine, but um, the next game. So I've been playing games like every morning. Like I'll record for like an hour to an hour and a half because I just wake up way before everyone else, and so it's just like, well, I might as well just play a video game. So I started. I did finish this game called Going Under. That is a roguelike, like Hades or I would say
Mm.
more like Rogue Legacy in a sense where excuse me, progression kind of follows, which I guess it does in Hades too. But you are able to take things out of the world and use them to like buy upgrades and stuff, and those are consistent throughout the game. I finished it in like 8 hours. It's on Game Pass, but it makes fun of corporations. So essentially, like you have this douchebag style CEO, um, and what's happening is this corporation is built on top of like these monster dungeons. So you have to go into the basements and take out these monsters, and so it's a run based game.
Yeah.
And what you start discovering, this might be a minor spoiler, but is the company itself that you work for. You're like a intern, but there's like a project manager. There's it's like a dev studio. So there's like an artist. There's a project manager, which nobody listens to her. There's a developer, and she's like, I don't know, but it's got all the tropes of like an actual like agile work environment and like a team, which is actually the type of team that I work in for my day job, which is kind of funny. But they've bought all these different companies. So like one company's called Sticks Coin, I think, and then one's called like Winky Dink, like these silly names. But you're actually going to those parts of the dungeon, and then it's like 3 levels, and then a 4th level is the boss fight. And so once you get through those, I think there's 3 different companies you go through. They do the thing where you have to do it again.
Oh, okay.
Which I don't like that. But it's also like, I would say it's about 5 times harder. I got through the first 3 worlds in probably, I don't know, maybe 4 hours. I probably, like, first run, I probably did like 7 times before I actually completed it. Then once I got the rhythm of it, I think it took a couple times for each other world. I couldn't beat on the second playthrough of it, I could not beat the first floor. Like it was so difficult.
Wow.
So they actually give you these assists that you can turn on. So it's almost like playing like Turtles in Time, where it's like, do you want 3 lives or 5 lives or 7 lives? It's kind of something like that.
Right.
Where it does like Breath of the Wild weapon degradation. So you're picking up like laptops and chairs, and you're like beating the hell out of these monsters with this stuff, like junk, essentially. You'll find swords and stuff, but they break after a little bit. But there's assists that you can turn on to be like, okay, give me make these like break less often or something.
Hmm.
I ended up flipping all those on. I was just like, give it fucking all to me, because I don't care at this point. Like, I don't want this to be a challenge. I just want to get through the story. Like,
Yeah.
you've proved that you're challenging. But once I turned all those assists on, I beat every floor in one run. So I think the
Wow.
last episode went up yesterday, and it's the final 4 levels of that game. Like, I just ran through it. So it's like their balancing is off there. Unfortunately, this game came out the same week as Hades.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
That's rough.
I know. I
That's
feel
really
like I
rough.
feel for them, because you
Yeah.
released the same week as another roguelike from a huge company that made Bastion and Transistor, um, and it won like Game of the Year from most outlets. And this is like your first game you've put out, and you just completely get overshadowed to a point to where you're on Game Pass now, which is cool. But I I think if they did not have that, I think it more people probably would have talked about it. I didn't see any coverage of it, and I frequent video game websites. I didn't see anybody talking about Going Under.
Right.
Not until it hit Game Pass, and people were like, "Oh, actually, we'll check this out." But that game was fine. I've got the whole playthrough on our YouTube. So if you want to check that out, it's all up there on its own little playlist. The last game I did start Mass Effect 2. Man, that game starts
The best Mass Effect.
so
Mass Effect.
strong. Oh my gosh, Rich. That game is
Crazy.
such a strong opening.
Yep.
And
The elusive man, and
yeah,
it's good.
which that's
good.
who voices him? It's the president.
Yeah.
I can't Sheen, Charlie Martin
Yeah.
Sheen,
Charlie. Yeah.
whichever one of
Not
those.
Charlie Sheen. Not. Yeah. Martin Sheen.
Is it Martin Sheen? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the president in whatever.
West Wing.
Yeah. Yes. Great show. I like that show a lot. Man, Mass Effect 2. Now, I will say in Mass Effect 1, you don't have to worry about bullets. Your guns are on cooldown. Where in Mass Effect 2,
Yep.
you do have to worry about bullets, which is fine. It forces you to use all your weapons. I'm playing on normal, but I'm still like, I get down into some fights where I'm like firing rockets because it's like all I got.
Right.
I've got my bionics and stuff. I'm playing as Vanguard, so I can like throw people around, which is always hilarious. That never gets old. I swear I could do that for 500 hours and I would still just cackle each time. Just like,
Yeah.
like I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's so funny. But yeah, that game is just, it's fantastic. I'm scanning planets. I just got Morden. I might be 4 hours into it, maybe 5. But I know it's like a 30 to 40 hour game if you try to 100% everything. So I really dug Mass Effect 1. I know I liked it at the time. I think they did a really good job with the remake. And yeah, Mass Effect 2 is great. Great game.
Yeah. Yep.
That is all I've been up to, Rich.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So we have a little bit of news to talk about. The third option on here, or the third news article I have, is should I read the Wheel of Time? We've already covered that. Let's talk about this Switch.
Yeah. Man, let's talk about this Switch.
Yeah. You going to get one?
No.
So how do you primarily play your Switch?
Handheld.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is the, and correct me if I'm wrong here, this is the Nintendo Switch parentheses OLED parentheses.
Nope.
OLED model.
There you go.
Parentheses. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's not the Switch Pro. It's
Nope.
not the Super Switch. It's not any of that. It's the Nintendo Switch OLED model.
Yep.
So essentially, they put a OLED screen in this thing that's 0.8 inches bigger. It's a 7-inch screen. The old Switch is a 6.2-inch screen.
Uh-huh.
No new processor,
Nope.
no new internal anything. Same crappy Joy-Cons that don't seem to want to work.
I can't believe that,
Um,
but yeah.
yeah, bananas. Uh, the dock though has a LAN port for whatever reason. I don't really know why.
Well, you
Um,
know, they're trying to get more into. I mean,
Streaming.
they have their online service that they want to
Yeah,
push, and they want to be able to say like, hey, you can hardwire your Switch now, um, and
but it's a mobile device also. Like I don't know. That
so
that that seemed like a weird thing to me. Like those games aren't that big.
no, they're not. But I think them wanting to get more competitive with um, Smash and stuff, I think they probably have enough people that are like, hey, let's stick a LAN. Can you stick a LAN port on this thing? And what are one of those like RJ8 connector or RJ56 or whatever it is? How much can that thing cost? Like
Oh, nothing.
pennies,
Absolutely
right? So it
nothing.
probably wasn't a whole lot to engineer that thing, but it's one of the things out of the 5 bullet points I have here. It's one of the things they highlighted. That thing
Yeah,
should have fucking had one already.
right.
Like
That's not.
it shouldn't
So
be a upgrade. Let's upgrade to
no,
this.
no. They should all have that at this point.
Right.
Um, so this thing's gonna be okay. So it does go to 64 gigs of internal memory. The
Yeah.
normal Switch is 32.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, this enhanced audio from systems onboard speakers. Yeah, whatever that means.
Yeah.
But this thing's $350. The standard Switch right now is what, 299?
Yep. And they're gonna still sell them.
Right. Yeah, this
Yes.
doesn't replace the old Switch. They're gonna sell that one, and you got to pay $50 extra for an OLED screen and an Ethernet port.
I think this is something that I would have to see in person to even understand the difference. Because it's still the same pixel count. It just
Yep.
might be a little more smoother.
Brighter.
But
It'll be brighter. It'll have darker blacks. It'll have more contrast.
yeah. I don't know if you've played a newer Switch game lately, but a little bit nicer of a screen is not going to help these
No,
games because they are
no.
not running good.
Yeah, that's the complaint that I'm hearing from people about the new Mario Golf is that
Oh,
like on multiplayer that thing just doesn't want to run. Like it
yeah.
drops frames. It has like actual problems, which is weird for a Nintendo game.
I know. You don't really, I mean, how often do you hear them like patch a game because they release something that has flaws?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
a unique thing. So the fact that
I mean, it's been underpowered for since it launched. I mean,
right.
remember Breath of the Wild, like
Yeah.
running around that village and like all those videos of people that thing's running at like 10 frames a second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like to me
Bananas.
there was times when I was playing Breath of the Wild that I was like, to me I thought it was like their approach, that's how they wanted it to look.
Right.
But no, it was just the
Yeah.
fact that the Switch just can't handle what they're throwing at it.
Yeah.
My son downloaded Hyrule Warriors, like the new one. He did the demo of it and he was playing it, and it, you know, that's a Dynasty Warriors clone where they try to throw like hundreds of enemies on the screen. This game though, you will see like 3 layers of people and then the rest is like fog. It's like an RTS fog of war style thing that they're doing, and it's just rough, man. It's surprising, which I understand. You know, they're saying we have chip shortages and nobody's pushing new hardware out, which I get it, and it sucks that they're in that situation, but I don't think they're giving people enough to warrant to buy one of these.
Value.
I don't think they're going to
no value here.
If you were in the market for a Switch, would you pay the extra $50 for this?
I don't think so. I'd have to see it. At this point, I don't feel like I even need one that docks. I would probably just get a Switch Lite.
Yeah. So you actually buy like the cheapest iPad, and you're like perfectly happy with that, which is great. Oh, well,
That's probably the one exception for me.
right? Yeah,
Honestly.
yeah. I know you splurge, which is fine,
I, li-
but
I like the big things,
I
the
I
better things.
I seen your PC that you were wanting to build, so no, I get it, but uh, yeah. So we have a Switch and a Switch Lite. I have no interest in this. I play with a Pro controller on my TV. So I
Yeah.
play on a nice TV already. I don't need a bigger Switch. My son or my daughter is not looking for that. They tend to grab the Switch Lite over the uh the Switch, the OG Switch anyway. Like they don't care to play
Right.
on a little 5-inch screen versus the 6.2 or whatever the other one is. So I think it's for people that if they're on the fence about buying one or they haven't bought one yet, or maybe they need a second one, if they don't want to switch light, like shell out an extra $50 and you'll get a nicer screen and can LAN port it if that's your thing. Wi-Fi is getting pretty good. I don't know if you really need to do a LAN port, but it's there. I think 64 gigs of internal memory is still laughable.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I mean, you can buy an Xbox Series S for $300, and that thing has half a terabyte, and the hardware blows the Switch out of the water.
Yeah.
Now it doesn't have a screen. I can't just like play my Series X or my Series S on a train or something, but I'm not sure the value is there, like you said. So,
Yeah.
um,
I mean, yeah. My phone has like 128 gigs. I mean,
yeah,
that's-
I know.
yeah.
Your phone was also infinitely more money, but still,
True. True.
yeah,
But a small piece of electronic hardware.
right.
I mean, yeah.
All right, we got one more story to get through. This actually just dropped like a few hours before we started recording. Um, so Netflix hired former EA and Oculus execs to lead its video game efforts. So his name is Mike Verdu, and he's joining as VP of Game Development at Netflix. So this is The Verge reporting this. Netflix is saying that they want to push into gaming, and obviously it's the biggest entertainment moneymaker in the world. So why would they not want to? And if you look at the numbers of like Game Pass, Stadia is not where it's at. I never hear anyone talk about Luna. I mean, I haven't heard Luna outside of a conversation between me and you since it's launched.
Yeah,
So
me neither.
I don't really know what Amazon is doing with that or how much they're actually pushing that. I never see ads for it. I see Stadia stuff. I never see anything Luna. Game Pass has 18 million subscribers at this point. And so I think Netflix is probably looking at that and they're just thinking we need to tap into this if we can. Like if we want to expand our portfolio somehow, we should look into gaming. So I don't know. I think that's cool. I don't think there's anything wrong with competition. I love Game Pass. We always brag about it, and we use it quite a bit to do game coverage. So,
Yep.
it's almost like it is a little monopoly. I know there's other competitors out there, but they're nowhere near what Microsoft is at this point. So, Netflix might help them, keep going forward with things. I have not had the best service with xCloud or whatever they're calling it now, Game Pass streaming or whatever. So I tend to download everything, but I have the luxury of doing that. I do not care at all to try to play an Xbox game on my phone with a virtual controller,
Right.
but they have a ton of games that you can do that with. So, yeah. But I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't know. I mean, Shadow is obviously pretty dang good. We played through all of Resident Evil
Yeah.
using that. It has its kind of ups and downs. But if anybody could do that, Netflix could.
Yeah.
I mean,
They have the money.
they have the know-how, they have the engineering, I mean,
They have the service
they have
already.
the money, they have the service. It's on every TV,
Yeah.
phone, computer. I mean, yeah. If but then you kind of think about that about like Google too. Like, oh, if Google really wanted to do something, they could do it. So or Amazon for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of how far are they going to take it?
I'm gonna look up Amazon Luna real quick, just because I'm curious.
It's a 404.
So it loads, but it actually loads into. Okay, so I'm loading the page now, and if I'm using Bing search results, I'm sorry about this.
This is bad.
But I will say, when you Google or Bing search Amazon Luna, the first thing it talks about is its controller and not the service itself.
Hmm.
And then the second thing is the Amazon Luna store on Android. The third
That's a
thing
mouthful.
The third thing is an article at androidauthority.com about pricing back in a couple months ago.
Hmm.
I don't have my OBS set up quite yet where I can show all this on the stream, but maybe we'll get there. Yeah, so not a whole lot. Not a whole lot about it, Rich.
Nope.
I thought it worked well, but the catalog wasn't there. I'm actually curious what their catalog is now. Let me see if I can click into this. It might make me try to sign up, which they still have Control and Ukulele. And then their
Yeah, I think
Ubisoft stuff.
Yeah, Ubisoft, I was going to say. Yeah.
They do have Yakuza 0 now. It's a thumbs up for me.
There you go.
Valhalla, so that's part of the Ubisoft stuff. Rich, I don't see anything. That's it.
I mean, I haven't even seen it on like during E3. Like you saw games like coming to Stadia or like coming to all other platforms and Stadia. Like you never saw Luna.
Right. Yeah. Like also
Yeah.
coming to Luna.
Right. Yeah.
I'll give that another year.
Yeah. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So something popped up on my newsfeed the other day
Okay.
and kind of blew my mind a little
Blew
bit.
your mind. Okay.
Have you seen this Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl video game?
No.
Okay. So do me a favor.
I'm gonna look this up.
Imagine Smash Brothers, but with Patrick Star and Powdered Toast Man from Ren and Stimpy.
Okay, I'm looking at this CNET article right now.
Yeah. So they are essentially making
Smash
like
Brothers.
a direct Smash Brothers knockoff, but with Nickelodeon properties.
So it'll have
Oh.
the turtles in it.
Turtles, Nigel Thornberry.
I don't know who that is. Wait, is that the big mustache guy
Yep.
from what is that show?
Wild Thornberries. There's some
I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
real monsters in there.
Oh my gosh. Like, is there a budget behind this? Is this something
Reptar.
Yeah, I'm looking this up right now.
Helga from Hey Arnold will be in there.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah.
Invader Zim, Danny Phantom,
Yep.
SpongeBob SquarePants will be in there.
Yep.
They don't have all four turtles. They only have Michelangelo and Leonardo. No love for purple or red.
Nope.
Wow. Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl.
I saw that and I thought to myself, like, how did this not exist already? Like how is Nickelodeon? I hadn't thought about Nickelodeon in, I don't know, probably 10 years. I mean, at this point, like...
Are your kids not Nickelodeon kids?
I mean, they watch Nickelodeon shows, but they don't watch Nickelodeon. Like...
Is
Back,
Nickelodeon still a thing? Like,
yeah, I mean it's still a cable TV
oh, sure,
channel,
yeah,
but
right.
like we grew up, like the era we grew up, like there was a channel, like you watched the channel. Like now, my kids just go to Netflix and watch Sophia the First, and
Mm,
is that a Disney show? That's a Disney show.
mm-hmm.
Never mind. Um, but like Dora the Explorer, or
Sure.
SpongeBob, like all that stuff's on Amazon or whatever.
Are your kids
Yeah,
big SpongeBob fans?
yeah, they like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was not a Nickelodeon kid growing up.
Oh,
I
let me guess. You were Cartoon Network.
yes. So
Yep.
we had one of the so our cable setup was weird. We had one of the big satellite dishes that you put in your backyard, and this like it would be you have blocks of 24 channels. So like
Mm-hmm.
G3, you would go there and there would be like 7 channels out of the 24. Like most of them would be fuzzy, but like maybe HBO is on there and TBS. So then you would like, well, I'm going to program this to go to S3. So then in the backyard, this massive freaking satellite dish is just rotating in our
Yep.
backyard. And then it's like, okay, I'll serve you up 24 channels that are on S3. And it might be Comedy Central, Cartoon Network, whatever. HBO2 might be on there. HBO Espanol might be on there.
Yeah.
So we have that. I did not have MTV. I did not have
Whoa.
um, Nickelodeon.
Whoa.
So I missed out on Beavis and Butthead. I missed out on a lot of that stuff.
Oh man.
I
So you
did
never
have.
watched Wait a minute, wait a minute. You never watched Rocket Power?
No, I don't even
Fairly
know what
Odd
that
Parents?
is.
Fairly Odd
So
Parents?
I know about Fairly Odd Parents, but I never watched it. Wasn't that a Cartoon Network show?
No.
What'd that show come on?
Nickelodeon.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I did not have Nickelodeon.
Whoa.
So I had Cartoon Network, and
Boomerang.
I did not have Disney, so I was not a Disney kid
Okay.
either.
Okay.
And that was
Yeah,
really
Disney
it.
Disney was not big when we were growing up. I don't feel like the Disney Channel was not big. Like
No,
obviously
and
Disney
it might
was.
be like those teeny bopper style shows or something.
Yeah.
That I know that are still popular today, but no, I didn't have any of that stuff.
Man, no Rugrats, no
Nope.
Hey Arnold, no.
Nope.
Whoa.
But I did watch Courage the Cowardly Dog, and I watched Ed, Edd n Eddy, and I watched all those weird ass shows that were on Cartoon Network. So
Whoa.
I
Man.
know.
That's whoa.
Yeah.
This explains so much.
So my South Park came out when I was like 9 years old, and I was watching that.
Wow.
Like at first, I love telling this story. I don't think I've told this story on here yet. I watched the first episode of South Park. I heard about it from school or something. I was in like 4th grade. I had no business watching freaking South Park.
Yeah.
But I'd go to my friend's house, and he didn't have Comedy Central, and neither did I. So like if he was at my house or I was at his house, like our satellites, you would go to the channel like Comedy Central, and then it would show up for like 2 seconds, and then a box would show up, and the box would like distort the view, and it's like you need to pay for this channel if you want to continue watching, right?
Uh-huh.
If you hit a button on your remote, that box would go away for like a second. So we would sit
Oh.
there for like 30
Oh.
minutes and just keep hammering on this button, pass the remote back and forth. I did this with my sister. And it's just like, okay, I want to be able to watch this episode of South Park, so I'm going to sit here and just hit this button just over and over and over and over and over.
You didn't hold it down?
You could not hold it down.
Man.
you just
needed
had-
like a 3D robotic arm.
I know, or like
to
a
just-
sewing machine or something. Just sit there and
Yeah.
hammer on that thing, So I somehow 10-year-old, 9-year-old, however old I was, little Michael Perry, somehow convinced my parents to take me to. We didn't have a Blockbuster. We had something called, I want to believe it was called Roadrunner. It was like let's go pick up Burger King. Let's go rent a movie and whatever. So at
Oh,
the
no.
time, there were VHS tapes of 3 episodes of South Park. And so, again, 10 years old, not judging my parents and how they parented me, but the episode was called An Elephant Makes Love to a Pig. It's off the first seasons of South Park. And I'm standing there just virgin-minded, don't know anything about any of this stuff really. I'm like, I kind of want to watch this. And they let me rent it and they let me watch it, and they got Comedy Central.
Wow.
I know. It was really cool. So I haven't watched it in several years, but I watched South Park religiously. Like that was my I'm going to put South Park on and fall asleep. That was my show that I had multiple illegal VHS tapes of like 6 hours of episodes that I would just, record and over and over and over. And yeah, it was good.
Man,
times.
I cannot believe you have not seen all those Nickelodeon shows.
No.
That is mind-boggling to me.
So like Space Jam's about to come out.
Uh-huh.
And I uttered this in front of my kids and they were just like, woo, like they've never seen Looney Tunes. I grew up watching Looney Tunes. Like that was,
yeah, so did I.
I would go to my like nanny's house and would like early in the morning, because my mom and dad would get up at like 5 a.m. to go to work. It was crazy.
Yep.
And
Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah, they would drop me off over there, and she would let me just like turn on channel 32 or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah.
And it was just always like Looney Tunes. So I just lay there for hours and just watch just murder, because that's all Looney Tunes is, just them trying to kill each other.
Yeah.
But so that was I transitioned from Looney Tunes, throw in a little Power Rangers in there, and then it was straight to South Park.
Man.
Animaniacs? No.
No.
No. I've seen Animaniacs, but there's I've Wacko, Yakko, and Dot, I think, are the main characters.
Yep.
But no, not to a point to where I feel confident that I could tell you about any episode of that show.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
Man.
Yep.
That's bananas.
I know. Yeah, there's a lot. And there's a lot of like big hit movies that I've missed out on because I just played video games. Like literally that's all I wanted to do. Video games were way more entertaining than a movie or a TV show could be. So if I had time to play a video game, that's what I was doing. I was playing video games.
Name a movie that you should have seen that you didn't see.
Okay, it's about to get really dark here. Okay.
Yep, it is.
I watched Die Hard for the first time like 3 years ago. There's a lot of Arnold Schwarzenegger movies I've never seen. Unfortunately, not unfortunately, because I still think it's a very good movie. I know Arnold Schwarzenegger from Jingle All the Way. That was my first foray into Arnold Schwarzenegger. So to me, he was just this jolly dad that was trying to do good for his family.
My Lord.
And I had no idea.
You don't want to watch Predator?
Nope.
Wait a minute. Like even now?
Didn't me and you watch Time Cop?
RoboCop.
RoboCop. Yeah.
And I couldn't believe you'd never seen that.
That was the first time I seen RoboCop.
Oh my God.
Turns out that's...
Wait a minute. Wait.
Yeah.
You've never seen Predator?
No.
Michael.
I know.
We're going to fix this.
Are we going to have to do a watch party?
Oh my Lord.
Yeah, we can. There is a plethora of movies out there that I've not seen. Some that's embarrassing, but yeah. A lot of classics. I don't think I've sat and watched E.T. all the way through. Let's see. I don't think I've sat and watched Jaws all the way through. I've seen...
Okay, that's surprising.
Yeah, I've seen versions of that on TNT.
I was going to say, like, you flip through...
Oh, yeah.
Like, cable TV in the 90s.
Oh, yeah. It was always on. But it just...
day.
But it just wasn't something that... Yeah, TNT. They show, like, it's 2 o'clock. Jaws must be on,
Yep.
But I don't think I've sat down and if I watched the majority of it, it was on TNT, which probably removed, like, really good bits of that movie.
Right. Had commercials and all that crap. Yeah.
No, just 6 years ago was the first time I seen Star Wars. I'm telling you, my life was video games. It was not
Man.
movies or, just a lot of that stuff. And then, like, for TV, I would just watch TBS reruns over and over and over. So it was a block of Fresh Prince, King of the Hill got on there at one point, Home Improvement, Family Matters.
The Matrix?
I've seen The Matrix. I've seen all three of those movies.
Okay.
But yeah, this could be a fun game to play. Like, have you seen this? And there's good chances that I've not seen it. So.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. Anything else?
Well, I mean, we could do this for like 2 more hours if you want.
Maybe this needs to be a topic for the next episode. Just like let's drill deep. If we need some more cold opens, it can just be like a.
Instead of filming 40s, it can be filming White Claws.
I can have one.
Yeah.
One White Claw. Yeah, there's a lot of really good action movies. Okay, I'll throw another one out there. I've seen the first Rocky. I've never seen any of the other ones.
Yeah, that's also pretty surprising.
Yeah,
because I feel like July 4th, like that's just on. Like all the Rockies are on. Yeah. But I mean, those movies are. I feel like a lot of people haven't seen all of the Rocky movies.
Sure.
Like all the way through. Like you watch like the training montage with the Kenny Loggins in the background, and you watch the fights, but like all the stuff in between is kind of meh.
Sure.
Yeah, that's not too surprising. Predator, that's surprising.
Let me think. There's like something major. Nothing's off the top of my head. Like
Tremors.
I've seen Tremors. I've seen the TV version of Tremors. So
yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I've seen Tremors 2.
Yeah.
It seemed like it was more of the same. Yeah, there's a lot out there. And it's just not stopping. I almost like feel bad for my kids a little bit because my backlog of movies that I had to watch was a lot slimmer than like kids born today. Like, my favorite movie is Pulp Fiction. Will my kids ever get around to watching that movie? I have no idea because
probably
there are infinite more movies out there and will be rated R movies by the time they get to the age that they can start watching that stuff. Like there's just a lot, and it's not slowing down.
Yeah, but they'll have access to it all. Like back in the day, we had to like rent VHSs and like, yeah,
I get that. All right, Rich, that's an episode.
That is an episode.
Hey, if you want to send us an email, you can send that to emails@bitpunch.tech. You can follow us on Twitter @BitPunch. We are on YouTube at user/BitPunch. We are posting daily at this point, sometimes multiple a day. So we're currently playing through Axiom Verge. We have the full playthrough of Resident Evil 7. I know we're going to probably finish Axiom Verge before the next game that we play comes out. So we're going to probably dabble in some shorter stuff until then. But yeah, so check that out. We're on, we got the TikToks rolling. We've got, we're going to start like playing around with Twitch and seeing what all is going on with that. Cause I know that is that is a whole other ballpark of things that you need to like manage. And even just like doing this little video, I didn't even introduce the fact that we're doing a video podcast now because I'm almost a little weary that I'll even be able to produce this correctly because I tend to have issues with OBS. But yeah, so yeah, check us out on YouTube. You can follow us on our website at bitpunch.tech. You can subscribe to our podcast from there or any of the podcast services that it spiders out from there and goes everywhere. So thank you all for listening. Thank you, Rich.
Thank you.
And we'll be back in a couple weeks. See you all.
Bye.